Hey y'all, this is AB on AB, and one of the things I want to show you here is some of the recent things that the National Park Service is doing here at Port Gibson. And since the last time I was out here, this is a new sign that they've put out. The National Park Service came into ownership of the Port Gibson battlefield, Chickasaw Bayou, and I believe Champion Hill, and that's all within the last year or so. And so it's nice to see one of the newest things that they've put out here is a nice, clean National Park Service sign. Up to this point, this property had been maintained by the American Battlefield Trust, and while they had done a great job with keeping up the property and purchasing it and all that kind of stuff, some of the signage that had been out here, I don't know that the American Battlefield Trust put up that signage. That's I think that's a state of Mississippi sign right there, and that one's in relatively decent condition. But there are other signs throughout the area of Port Gibson that just aren't well maintained. The house itself has fallen into some disrepair over the years since I was coming out here. There were times when it actually was quite nice and well maintained and kept up, and just lately it seems like it has not been maintained. So I said earlier when I was driving in here and you saw some of the portions of the Rodney Road that I come out here and there's never anyone else out here. Well, today that is not the case. As I pulled up, there's another tour going on here, and so I don't want to try to interrupt them, so I waited as patiently as I could for as long as I could, but I can't wait any longer. So just want to set the scene for you. On the night of April 30th, you have the Union Army is marching down this road towards the town of Port Gibson. And this is like I said, the historic Rodney Road, and they're heading up the road toward Port Gibson. Out here at the AK Shaifer house, you have a few women who are still living in the home, but Brigadier General Martin Green has posted his brigade back on the ridge near Magnolia Church, and that'll be our next stop on the journey, and it is down the road this direction. But he's got some pickets here, a small contingent of pickets, and on the night of April 30th, around midnight, the women in the house know the Union are proceeding down this road towards them, and so they decide that they should pack up what belongings they can and get out of Dodge while they can do it. And the pickets, and Martin Green is actually here, and he's assuring the ladies that, you know, there's no reason to be afraid. They're not within miles of us. And at that very moment, shots ring out, and it is enough to frighten the pickets and frighten the women, and they take off down this road into Port Gibson, and the Battle of Port Gibson is underway. And so McClernand's troops are marching down this road, 13th Corps. You got Hovey and Carr and other elements, they're heading down this road. And you have a bit of night fighting. It's not much, it's not prolonged, and once the first contact is made, Union troops choose the discretion over valor, and they wait until the morning to kick off the assaults. And what you find here at Port Gibson, one of the things that I do want to show you is this terrain. And at the time of the battle, the ridge tops were cleared. They were cultivated and cleared for farming and for just normal living purposes in those days. But the ravines were not. And this is what caused so much difficulty in the movements of this battle. And the battle effectively became a ridge hopping exercise. As the troops moved from ridgetop to ridgetop, where the artillery could have clear fields of fire to fire from one place to another. Well, in the meantime, you can see here, they had to go down into these ravines, and as they dropped down into these ravines, and that ravine down there, I mean, it's probably 80 to 100 feet drop into that ravine. As they drop into that ravine, accounts say that it was like entering into a wall of green, and you couldn't even see 20 yards in front of you. And so units lost their cohesion, brigades fell apart, And so it became a very difficult fight because of this terrain. And like I said, I'm out here on April the 2nd. The battle occurred May the 1st of 1863. So you would see similar vegetation at that point, maybe even a little thicker by May, as things here in Mississippi are just now starting to bloom, and pollen is in the air, of course, and allergies are going crazy. But this became a fight from ridgetop to ridgetop, and when the soldiers dropped down into those intervening ravines, it became an extremely difficult exercise. And you can see why there was not a whole lot of unit cohesion here. There's a neighboring road past the Shaifer house that was connected by kind of a by road, and eventually McPherson's 17th Corps comes down that road, and Green is quickly being outnumbered, and so he calls on Major General John Bowen, and we'll get to see his picture over here. General John Bowen, and he is at a place called Grand Gulf, and Grand Gulf is a river bastion. It's got some batteries there. Gunboats have been able to run it, but it's a tough nut to crack. And so Bowen comes down here with his Missouri Special Troops under Francis Cockrell, and they come to assist Martin Green. Well, when Bowen gets here, he quickly realizes that he's tangling with the entire Union Army, and he recognizes that he's probably not going to be able to hold. And so as this fight progresses from ridgetop to ridgetop, eventually Bowen decides that it's time to flee Port Gibson, and they retreat to the north. One of the unintended, possibly, consequences of this battle is that Grand Gulf must be evacuated, further opening the river to Yankee gunboats. And so it's just another portion of the river that is opened to the federal forces, and the Confederates have to give it up. And I'll give you a little look at the terrain over here to the south of the Shaifer house, and you can see as this drops down into these ravines, and the undergrowth is relatively clear, so that wouldn't have been such an infringement on the troops. But when you get down into some of these ravines, number one, you've got this difficult terrain, climbing down and climbing up, but it gets pretty thick. And there's some places, as I drove in here, as I looked off into the ravines and saw what the terrain looked like, it would have been extremely difficult to maintain any sort of unit cohesion. So this is the Shaifer house, and this is where the opening shots of the Battle of Port Gibson